Greetings from the mountains of Colombia. My name is J Weiskopf. The name of the series is Ayahuasca Express. Hundreds of people who had done ayahuasca in different countries, and he found many of the visions were in common. Now, from that, there's an interesting, what you might call, philosophical aspect. Are they in common because they are real, they're really out there, they really have in another dimension, a reality, concrete reality. And with ayahuasca, we tune into that reality wherever we are, and we see the gods and the spirits of the forest. But the hard scientists say this is kind of hardwired into our brain. It's very mysterious, but it may go back to very primitive times, when men were fighting wild beasts and all this. And it still reflects cultural differences. This is deep water. I don't have a scientific mind.
So back to this topic of the visions, and I would like to say there's a lot more going on than visions. I would say the predominant quality of ayahuasca would be feelings, emotions, and on the one hand, and physiological feelings running through the body for hours. The body is turned into a sort of a vibraphone. It's a tremulous, it can be very frightening, very anxiety provoking time, followed by certain sorts of happiness and bliss. And I would give these much greater priority than the visions, and I think it's typical of these, for example, Reichel, Dolmatov, and so forth, to focus on a vision, something that something that can be detached and looked at in a quote-unquote art historical or scientific way. But please don't get tangled up with emotions, because the first thing that's going to be involved here is your own emotions as an anthropologist or someone who's taking ayahuasca with indigenous people, peasants, and friends. I would say that this is the most important thing. And the second, I would say, this constant game that is played with one of moving out of one's body to try and escape from the anxiety and the fear and the paranoia, only to have your body catch up with you. And this is something that I experienced a lot, this constant of trying to run away, being caught by your body like ectoplasm or something, absorbing you and so forth. I would also want to emphasize sound. It seems to me that the singing, often called chanting, of the ayahuasquero, the person who's administering the medicine, is all important. It rings in one's ears, and one makes similar sorts of movements with one's body, with one's hands, with one shaking in a hammock, with one's ability to produce music in one's own head. You must remember too that this is all taken in a group, so that there's a sort of a group forces, a group dynamic that's involved here too. So I would allow these other sensory modalities to play their part when discussing this. It's not simply visionary. And the word vision, of course, is a predominant Western sense, and it's the sense that's going to be mostly talked about by outsiders. But secondly, I would say that forget the serpents, forget the jaguars and so forth. It seems to me that the emotions that I just talked about, which is, how should I put it, not simply bodily, a feeling of connection with forces in the environment around you and the people around you, a gut-wrenching sort of series of feelings. have everything to do with what you might call basic religious / spiritual sort of sense, to do with evil, to do with sorcery, to do with attack, to do with fears that one has about members of one's immediate family, fears that one has with one's neighbors and so forth. I would think these are the things that really grab, in my experience, grab people and grab me, rather than visions per se. To focus on the visions, fine, if that's the way you want to go, but it's only a tiny part of a social cultural, well, let's forget that, a social universe. So this thing about phosphemes and so forth, I think is just sort of rubbish. It's just a red herring. It attracts attention from what really makes humans human.